This is power and purpose personified, walking towards justice, fighting for freedom. This is speaking now, empowering the next generation to know how to live with confidence and precision, to move with mastery and meaning. This is a spirit that is free, traveling one coast to the next, escaping the comforts of home. This is finding new friends and exploring the warrior within to destinations amazing, to destinations unknown. This is what it means to keep pounding, to cheer for the home team without hesitation. This is love and life, success and sacrifice. This is Yolanda Trotman, and this is The Conversation.
Hello, 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 everyone. Happy Wednesday to you. Happy Hump Day. It's Cinco de Mayo, so there's so much to celebrate today. Now, listen, we have a very, very special show tonight, and I'm telling you now, if you have questions, drop them in the chat early because we have a lot of ground to cover with my very special guest for this evening. So excited to have her join us here on The Conversation. So if you've been following the Personal Conversation series, this series is about having one-on-one conversations with people to really talk about their story, what's next for them, and all of that. My guest tonight is someone who I've admired for a long time. We actually first met on the campaign trail back in 2014, and it's been so incredible to watch her dynamic rise in Congress, her historical her historical swearing in as the 100th woman in Congress, and just everything that she is doing as far as her legislative agenda. We're going to talk about all of that tonight. So before we get started, for those of you who are just tuning in and chiming in, make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow the Instagram page, like the Facebook page, follow me on Twitter, all things at the Convo Pod Show. Now, as far as the website, if you haven't already been to the website, definitely check it out. It has all of the past Convo Pod Show episodes from seasons 1, 2, and 3. There's merchandise up there, and of course more. And if you haven't already done so, make sure you slide on over to YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Very easy to find. Just simply type in The Conversation with Yolanda Trotman. Now, if you are tuning in from North Carolina, let us know what city that you're chiming in from. If you're tuning in from out of state, let us know where you are chiming in from as well. So let's get started, shall we? So I am so excited to have on The Conversation tonight none other than the fabulous, incomparable, legendary Congresswoman Alma Adams. Hello, Congresswoman. How are you?
Hello, Yolanda. It's good to see you, my sister, and it's good to be with you tonight. I am really excited. Thank you for the invitation.
Well, listen, thank you for being here. And I know that you have been incredibly busy with so much that's happened within the first 100 days of the Biden presidency and everything that is coming in the pipeline. So it's an incredibly exciting time and a busy time, I'm sure. So thank you for taking the time. So if you have questions, if you're joining us on YouTube, make sure that you drop us the questions in your comments. If you're catching us on Facebook, make sure you drop your questions in the comments as well. We can see them. We'll get to as many questions as we can with the time that we have. So for those of you who do not know who Congresswoman Alma Adams is, her story is absolutely fascinating. But before we get into your story, who are you? If there were 3 adjectives that you could pick to describe yourself, what would you pick?
Hardworking, committed, proud, and intentional. I know you said 3, but that's 4.
Well,
the intentional. Maybe let's put that together.
I love it. So why would you pick proud?
Well, because I am. I mean, I've learned over the years. I had a strong mother. We didn't have much, but she was proud of her children. She was proud about being a Black woman. She worked hard, and when I look at the history of not only my family, but also when I look at the history of just Black women. Then I'm just happy to be one. I'm happy to be here. I wouldn't change that for anything. And I have a daughter. I'm proud of her, and of course, she feels good about who she is. and I taught her to be that way. And so, you have good upbringing, then it follows you. So, yeah, I'm proud about who I am, what I have become, and the way that I have evolved, moving from school board to Congress. The Lord has blessed me, and I'm just grateful for the opportunity to serve.
Amen and amen. So those of you tuning in, hey, Kim Ratliff, of course, you know she and Mama Ratliff had to check in. We see you. Natasha, I'm not sure who Hippie Conquest is, but we see you. So make sure that you drop us a wave. Let us know where you're watching from. So for those of you who don't know, Congresswoman Adams represents the 12th congressional district here, which is most of Charlotte and the surrounding areas, not the complete area, but most of the area. And it's interesting because when you ran in 2014, District 12 looked a completely different. And that seat had previously been filled by Mel Watt. And it was really interesting what that dynamic was. But before we get into that, why politics? What was the draw for you for politics initially?
Well, listen, politics controls everything. Controls how many street lights you can have on your corner. It controls everything from the time you're born to the time you die. Somebody called a politician is going to make some judgments and determinations about your life, where you can live. I mean, some communities maybe you can't. But yeah, politics controls everything, and I think, listen, either you're going to be involved, and if people tell me, or people say all the time, well, I don't do politics. Or if you don't do politics, politics will do you. So, I've learned that every single thing from the time I've been, from the time I taught for those 40 years, if you think about students, the curriculum that you have to go through in your high school, in your college, there were a group of folks who got together and said, you must take this, this, and this. You must have X number of courses to graduate. So politics controls each and everything that we do. And I think people don't think about it, but I think they've thought a lot about it now with the pandemic and the other kinds of things that are going on. Look at what's happening with the killings and the murders across this country with our Black men and women, and the fact that they can't even get the body cam politics. So it's everywhere, it's everything, and I think we have to really recognize that and know how it impacts our lives and in the ways that it does.
Well said. And we're going to touch on that because there's so much that people don't know how the foundation was laid for the legislation from the Republican supermajority when we didn't come out and vote when we should have in 2016, and how that legislation was passed through. That's a soapbox we're not going to get on tonight, but that's where we are, because when you don't vote, there's consequences to our elections. But so for people who don't know, where are you from originally, and what were you like as a kid?
Well, listen, I am actually a Tar Heel. I was born in High Point, North Carolina.
Yes, most people don't know that. Yes,
right.
That's how we're bonded.
Washington Street, 728. The house is not there any longer, but my mother says that when I was about 7 weeks old, we moved north. And so I grew up in New Jersey, between New Jersey and Baltimore. But High Point is where my roots, and of course I had a lot of family. Many of them are deceased. Some are still living there. But that was sort of my point of entry in High Point. And I came back to North Carolina. Never lived in North Carolina until I came back to attend North Carolina A&T after high school. I graduated from high school in Newark, New Jersey, West Side High School. And I lived for some time as well in Montclair, New Jersey, East Orange. So then I came back to North Carolina to attend college in 1964, actually. And I've been in North Carolina pretty much ever since, except for 3 years or 2.5 that I left and went to get my PhD in Columbus, Ohio. So that's it for me. There were 4 of us. My mom married a second time, so I have a brother, my older brother and older sister who are from both my parents have passed on. So that's kind of my life. I grew up My mom did domestic work. She cleaned other folks' houses, so I wouldn't have to do that. And we called it days work, and which is why I work so hard right now, so that we can have a living wage. My mom never made a living wage. I had a sick sister. My sister was passed away at age 27 from sickle cell. Back in those days, we didn't know a lot about it or what you could do about it, but I stayed in the hospital with my mother, going back and forth, taking my sister to the emergency room. We didn't have health insurance.
Wow.
And so that's why, that's one of my H's. I have four H's that I work on, and healthcare is one of those. Everybody should have healthcare. Should not be a privilege for some, but a right for everyone.
Absolutely. So for those of you who are just tuning in, few shout outs. I see Mary Bullware said you all met at Bennett College. Sheldon McAlpine wants to thank you for recently speaking at his alma mater at Alabama A&M University.
Right.
Sheila, we see you chiming in from Gastonia. Quite a few people. Natasha, I see you. Michelle, we see you. So if you have questions, make sure that you drop them in the comments. So when you came back to High Point, obviously you left as a child. When you came back to High Point in the Greensboro area, and of course, for those of you who don't know, she's a proud Aggie. Aggie. Yes.
Right.
Yes. So when you came back and you said you started in 1964, now that's the heart of the civil rights movement. What was the atmosphere like then, and how did that shape your view in terms of the importance of politics?
Well, let me just tell you that I came back. I applied to North Carolina A&T State University. It was A&T College then, because of what was going on here. In the 60s, I was a freshman in high school, and I watched everything on TV, listened on the radio intently in terms of what was going on with the students protesting and that kind of thing. And so I said, I really want to be there. My high school in New Jersey didn't have a lot of students who looked like me. And so to just come to an environment where all these folks look like me, I had teachers who looked like me, that was a very unique experience for me. It was an opportunity for me to learn more about myself. When there was a lot of tension here when I came, because of course we've had the sit-in movement from the 60s, and so but I enjoyed my time on the campus. I have lifelong friends as a result, and my class is still meeting. We just celebrated 51 years actually.
Love it.
Yeah.
So you came? Did you come from Newark specifically down to North Carolina?
I came from Newark. I graduated from Westside High School in Newark in 1964. I came here. I met the love of my life, but I wanted to stay focused on school. So I got married early at 19, as a matter of fact. And of course, to Billy Adams, the late Billy Adams, he passed away 2 years ago, actually, a year ago. But we were both in school. He had come out of the military, out of the Air Force. And so he was there on a GI Bill. So we met and we married, and we made a pact that we would both stay in school and finish. And we did do that. And 3 years later, my son was born. So when I marched each time for my bachelor's and master's, the first time I was pregnant with, actually my son was born in 1960. Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember when he was born. 69.
You're gonna be like, Mom.
68. Yeah, he's 52 now. And then, so the second time when I got my master's, we both got our master's together. Then I was pregnant with my daughter. So, I have 4 grandchildren. I'm proud of them and the work they're doing. I have my youngest grandson is a rising junior at Howard University. He didn't want to be an Aggie. His mom's an Aggie. His granddad's an Aggie. But he wanted to get out of town. As long as he attended an HBCU, I told him Nana's money would follow you. And, I know what HBCUs do for students. I happen to have been a first generation he will not be a first generation, but nevertheless, we need to keep our schools thriving and surviving.
Absolutely. So then you were drawn into education for almost over 4 decades or thereabouts.
That's right, 4 decades. I started teaching in the early 70s, 1971. I took a job at Bennett College. Now, I was pregnant with my daughter, 8 months pregnant, and my professor, who happened to be my mentor, and Eva Hamlin Miller, really helped shape my life and my thinking about myself and my art. And so she told me to go to Bennett, and Dr. Isaac Miller, who was the president at the time, he was looking for a teacher. And I said, well, yeah, I'm going to take this year off. I had just finished my master's. And she said, well, just go talk to him. And I did. And he looked at me really strange because, I'm walking in there, I'm 8 months pregnant, right? And he probably thought I should be going to the hospital. But at any rate, I did accept the position, and we worked the details out. So I came to work. My daughter came with me in my stomach. And so as a matter of fact, I almost had her on the campus. I went to work that day. I stayed out for, a couple of weeks thinking the baby was late. So, so I started teaching, and my kids kind of grew up on the campus. We had the children's house, and they went to nursery school there and so forth. So I've had to juggle and sort of do multiple, as we say, multitask all of my life. Even as a young girl growing up, my mother worked all the time trying to keep food on the table. And so I had to take responsibility for buying food, for cooking the foods. I learned how to cook early. And as I said before, assisting my mother with the care of my daughter. So, that was kind of my life growing up, although I got to do a lot of other exciting things that most kids do, riding your bike and so forth. But I was very much involved with really trying to help around the house. And I learned to do multiple things because I had to do multiple things. And that's what I do now. I taught art for 40 years at Bennett. At the same time, I ran for the school board, first Black woman elected to the school board of Greensboro, served 2 years there, raised a lot of hell about Black kids and closing schools. And so I didn't get reelected.
That wasn't your destiny.
Well, the point is, the process was flawed. We have now, I represent the 12th district here in Mecklenburg. Only the people in the 12th district can vote for me in the primary and in the general election. At that time, the way that situation was set up with the school board elections, only your district vote for you in the primary, and then when you had your general elections, the whole city. So I had 10, I think, or 12 precincts in my district. I won every precinct in my district and lost the election.
Wow.
Because the at-large community thought, Alma Adams talks too much about Black kids and that kind of thing. I don't apologize for that, never have. And so they went out, and there was an anti-Adams campaign. And so the other 30 precincts in the city actually overruled my district. So I was the poster child for that. I mean, I still feel like, we did a lot of good things during those 2 years, and we fixed the system. So now it's strictly district. But Black folks, we didn't understand it, though. We didn't understand, Yolanda, that when the system was set up, we thought we had a district system, but it was not a real district system. And that was the first time it was utilized, in the election that I was in. So when I first ran, people said, gosh, she's an educator. She'd be great on the school board. So I got a lot of support. And like I said, I took 87, 88% of the vote. And then when I ran for re-election, because I had just continued to raise issues about how we were mistreating Black kids and closing schools in the Black community and so forth. So that's the thing so after that, I was out for a while. Of course, I was still teaching, didn't miss a class. And then I ran for the Greensboro City Council. My community wanted me to do that. They were still upset that I got kind of booted off the school board. And so I ran for city council, and I won. I followed Katie Dorsett,
Mm-hmm.
The late Dr. Katie Dorsett, who passed away last year, went on to be a county commissioner, went on to be a state senator, went on to also to be one of the individuals in Jim Hunt's Governor Hunt's cabinet. So I had a lot of great mentors along the way, and that was really important to me to do this work. I love this work. I love serving, and I love having the opportunity to make things happen. That's what That's what you always look at, I think.
And so from there, you went from city council to statewide government. So
Absolutely.
what year was that, and how
That was
was that a
19.
learning? Was that was that a major difference from you difference for you rather, as far as the lobbying and all of that, or was it more of just a natural transition?
Well, it was just a natural transition, and all it does, it puts you at a different level. I think having that experience from local government, going to state government, then to the federal level, I think really helps you because really all politics are local. We've heard that, and that is true. And so many of the things, for example, on the city council, we had a serious problem in my district with boarded up housing, making sure that we had affordable housing for folks. And there was a glitch in the law. The city council, when people would come and complain about it, we would say, well, it's a state law. So when I got to the state house, I was able to change that because I knew what was going on, and I knew that there was a problem, and we had to fix it, and so we were able to do that. But so it was a good transition for me. But it also I could still work on education. I was one of the appropriators. I served on the education committee. So for me, those things that I enjoyed doing, that I felt I did well, that I felt my communities needed, I was able to continue that. Even today, as a member of Congress. But let me step back for a moment because in the State House, I was very concerned again about giving people a wage for the work that they did. We have to appreciate workers, and you got to pay them. Working hard is not enough if you don't make enough. The people who make minimum wage and I don't make enough. There's no way you can survive on 725. So I am now, and I passed or had worked to pass the first increase in our state. 2006, count that. That's what, 14
Wow.
years that we had a $1 increase, and we haven't had one since. So I'm working hard in the Congress now. My committee, a subcommittee that I chair, addresses all of those issues in terms of workplace problems and issues and concerns and so forth. And so I'm still working, trying to get workers the kind of wage that they deserve. So it's all kind of a progression. I'm still working on issues around housing. I sit on the Financial Services Committee with Representative Congresswoman Maxine Waters. We call her Auntie Max. A lot of folks in her community. She is serious. She is hardworking. Part of the financial services not only deals with banking and those kinds of things, but it also deals with issues around housing and homelessness and so forth. So I'm still in those areas that I think I can do the most good. I have 4 H's that I work on: housing, healthcare, hunger, and higher education.
Oh, you
And
got to say that again. You got to say that again.
healthcare, hunger, and higher education. And perhaps you don't know this, but in our 12th district alone, prior to COVID, 146,000 people are food insecure. 50,000 of those are kids who go to bed hungry every night. That
Wow.
should not be. Now with COVID, people aren't going to the grocery store; they're going to food banks. That is just so. It's just heartbreaking. And so I started the Adams Hunger Initiative, one of my first projects when I entered the Hill, and we're still going on, and we are networking with organizations and entities across the state that are addressing this problem. It is a serious problem. I believe that education and housing and food, those things should be absolute rights that people have. We need to put it in the Constitution somehow. I mean, I believe that they are rights that everyone should have. So, I'm still, everything that I started, even back on the school board in 1980, I think it was 82 when I ran for school board. We're still working on today, trying to improve the quality of life and the educational opportunities for kids who look like me, and we need to do that because they are our future. Matter of fact, they're our right now. When we talk about, you're the future, you're the right now. These young people are the right now, and we've got to make sure. And really, when you think about it, as we're getting older, they're the ones who are going to be, looking out for us.
That's right.
So we make sure that we are putting them in a good place and preparing them well, because if we do that, then we're basically looking out for our future as well.
So a couple of quick shout outs before we transition real quick. So of course, George Laura Cubbage clearly has to say hi. I know you know Judge Cubbage.
All right, I do.
Couple people keep telling you to keep acting up. Annetta Watkins Ford, she said keep acting up. Ashley, Sandra, a few other people wanted to definitely give you a shout out. I did want to take one quick question before we transition. Kim asked, can you please share the information about the HBCU infrastructure bill, what it is and who it will benefit? Because I know that's your baby.
Well, let me just tell you that one of my first major acts entering Congress was to start the Bipartisan HBCU Caucus. We've never had that. We've had folks concerned about HBCUs, but to have a bipartisan caucus, we've got hundreds of caucuses, from the art caucus to the bicycle caucus to the wine caucus. I mean,
there's a wine caucus.
There's a
sign me up for that.
I'm telling you, there's a bourbon caucus, the wine, all kinds of caucuses. And so we checked. There was no bipartisan HBCU caucus. And let me stress that, because if you're going to get anything done, you're going to have to work across the aisle. You're going to have to find a way to engage your colleagues who may not be of your party affiliation, because ultimately, what you want to do is to get the bill passed out the way you set it out. Now, of course, I have on the Republican side, Senator Tim Scott is partnering with Senator Chris Coons of Delaware. On the House side with me, I have my co-chair French Hill, who is working with me, and then I have some vice chairs. But so the bipartisan caucus we've done a number of things to bring support for our schools. Three purposes here. First of all, to engage, to expand the knowledge base, and to engage a national conversation about HBCUs. You probably have not heard so much about HBCUs until this past election. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody wants to get in on it. But we've done a number of things. We are over 100 members now. We are not only a bipartisan, but we are bicameral, because we do have members of the Senate who are a part of it. A lot of our HBCUs, believe it or not, live in or exist in Republican districts. Education, to me, is not a partisan issue. Hunger is not a partisan issue. If your belly is growling because you're hungry, it's not going to, they don't want to know, your belly doesn't want to know, am I Democrat or am I Republican? If you don't have health care, that is not a partisan issue. You need to see a doctor. You need to see a doctor. So we launched we sponsored the Futures Act. That's probably one of my most significant pieces of legislation. $255 million of permanent dollars for HBCUs and MSIs. 85 million of those dollars specifically for our HBCUs. But the key thing, Yolanda, about this is that this is not money that we have to go back for every year. It is a permanent fusion in our budget. Now, people will tell you sometimes, well, my goodness, well, you want more? Yes, because when you look historically, our schools, our historically black colleges and universities have never received equitable funding. And so we that bill is HR 5363. And during the campaign, everybody was taking credit for it, including the former president. But it future actually spells out future, but it's fostering undergraduate talent by unlocking resources for education. Permanent 255 million a year. It's a specific 85 million for HBCUs. Now, I'm looking to improve on that with the Ignite HBCU Infrastructure Act. Let me tell you what that is. I'm still trying to get all the words together, but it's the institutional grants for new infrastructure, technology, and education for HBCU excellence. Now, you've all probably heard that our president has an infrastructure bill. I believe with our schools as old as they are and still doing great things, we make up what 3 or 4% of all of the higher education institutions, but yet we are producing, and we're not second best, and so we want to make sure that the HBCUs are competitive in all fields, especially STEM and STEAM education. So Ignite, just think about that. We're going to light fire here, and and then I'm actually introducing it tomorrow. I think it is tomorrow, and on next week we'll have a press conference. But there's a story out already that McClatchy did. Actually, a young lady did a really good job. And so these are the kinds of things that I think we have to do. First of all, we have to admit that, and I tell my colleagues in terms of educating them, getting them to understand the historical significance and so forth of our schools, and then passing bipartisan legislation. The Futures Act was a bipartisan bill. The Ignite HBCU Infrastructure Act, it too will be a bipartisan bill. It's our job now to work across the aisles to get my Senate and Republican partners to help bring their folks along so that we can have a win-win for our schools. So I'm really excited about it. We're looking at, for example, since the caucus was founded, we've gotten 1.3 billion in funds for HBCUs to rebuild their campuses. We secured additions to the Farm Bill, which was so discriminatory. We've got scholarships now. Believe it or not, we have 19 1890 land grant institutions. In North Carolina, A&T is the only land grant. And the 1890 land grants were founded because in 1862, when the other land grants of the major majority culture schools, they wouldn't let us in. And so we're now in, but the state is required to match the federal dollars, a 1-1 match. And many states are not doing it. North Carolina's not doing it either. So we put some legislation into, some language into this Farm Bill that would require certain things of these schools. It also established an annual HBCU brain trust, and we've done that through our caucus. Faculty, staff, and students from HBCUs come to the nation's capital to visit and to promote their institutions. But this is going to be this is my focus in terms of education. I do sit on the education committee, and I think this bill has the potential to create over 500,000 jobs, while at the same time investing in critical HBCU infrastructure. When you walk on, I taught in a building that never had air conditioning in it until most recently for 40 years. And so we have students living in residence halls. We have all kinds of other problems in terms of technology on our campus. I'm proud that this president realizes that we've got to do that. So, we forged a path of former slaves as far as our nation's HBCUs, and And so many of our students are first generation students, just like I was. But in spite of the disinvestment, in spite of the neglect, we have continued to do more
Mhm.
than many of the other institutions that have had much, much more. So
So,
I'm glad to be a HBCU graduate.
and listen, there's a bunch of questions about education. We won't have the time to get to many of those, but I know this is also important to you because I know I've seen you talk about a good bit about Black maternal health. And one question I want you, if you have time to touch on, she
Mhm.
wanted to, Diamond wanted you to elaborate just a bit on what we what Black nurses can do to support your efforts to deal with Black maternal health. And why is it so important? Because we just don't talk about it. You don't hear about it, but it's so incredibly important to life expectancy and things beyond that. And I know that's a whole extra conversation by itself, but I
Well,
did
we're going
want
to
you
come
to
back
touch
and
on.
talk about it, but let me just say this is a serious problem. We are losing Black mamas and Black infants. And last month, we, of course, launched the fourth annual Black Maternal Health Week. Uh, Black Maternal Health Week started 4 years ago in 2018 when Senator Kamala Harris, then was Senator Kamala, and we got together, we partnered with Black Mamas Alliance. We did this because maternal health outcomes were unacceptable. The mortality rate in the United States was far behind other developed countries. Black women had worse outcomes, dying at a rate of 3 to 4 times that of white mothers. Uh, COVID-19 has made things worse. I got involved with that with the youngest African American woman in Congress, Lauren Underwood from Illinois, who is also a nurse, and she's had some experiences with friends. I had an experience with my daughter 15 years ago, who we almost lost because doctors ignored the complaints that she had when she was carrying Jocelyn. Jocelyn came early. There was a C-section, and it got to be very, very critical for both she and my granddaughter. Jocelyn's 15 now, so we just thank God for her and for my daughter because they could have died. And when we found that 60% of maternal deaths are preventable.
Right.
These medical folks must listen to Black women. They don't do it enough. We've got all these biases and so forth. We have filed the Momnibus. There are 12
Yes.
bills in the Momnibus, and they invest in federal programs that will address risks for not only COVID during and after pregnancy. It promotes maternal vaccinations. It fills in those gaps that will, I think, help to not only save mothers but save the children. No mother should leave. No mother should leave the hospital without that child because the child died. No child should be left without their mother. So this bill, I have one bill in the package that is called the Kira Johnson Act, and Senator Raphael Warnock, who is Vice President Harris's successor. No, he's not her successor, but her successor is Alex Padilla, and he's joined my bill as well as Senator Warnock. And so it's important for the men to be involved because everybody's there. We're coming up to Mother's Day, so everybody has a mother. You have aunts, you have sisters, you have daughters, and so this is something that I think should be of concern to everyone, and I believe it is. So that with the Momnibus, this is a roadmap now to help our healthcare system, to help our healthcare providers, our regulators, our lawmakers, and society to finally make Black maternal and infant health a priority. We're not going to stop until I told you I was persistent, right? So we're going to continue to work to get the Momnibus passed. Now we've got a real ally in the White House, the former senator the first African American woman, first Asian American woman, in our vice president, who has been point and center on this particular issue. And we just believe that we're going to, and the president has come out supporting the omnibus bill, as well as my speaker, Speaker Pelosi. So we feel really good about it. And, it's going to really help us to make sure that birthing is a happy thing.
Right.
And that it should be a happy time for these parents and these children. But Kira Johnson's story is so sad. She was a smart entrepreneur. She went in the hospital. She and her husband, Charles, had one son, and they went to the hospital to give, she was going in to give birth to their second child. For 12 hours, she suffered after giving birth to him, cesarean, and 12 hours later, Kira was dead. She died from hemorrhaging, not paying attention. Oh, that's, oh, it's all right. It's nothing. That kind of thing. And so we've got to do a better job of not only the training, but the educating and having, sometimes, we just feel some doctors will tell you, well, that people think, well, you're a Black woman, so you can
take it.
Yeah, you can bear pain. You all worked in the fields. I mean, all of that crazy stuff. And people then, they internalize that and those kinds of things. So we're looking at this implicit and explicit bias. I mean, I think that too is an issue. We've got to be able to fund a number of the programs that help women, whether it's we've got some great programs with doulas and other folks who really help in this whole birthing process. So we're excited about it. Momnibus, we think will help solve a lot of the problems around this particular issue.
So there's a couple of quick questions I want to ask you before
I'm happy to stay on and answer them.
Okay, well, we got about 20, so we don't have that kind of time. But before we transition, for those of you tuning in, definitely share this. If you were catching it midway through, definitely go back and catch it from the beginning. But we got to talk about the hats, Congresswoman. The rumor is 900 plus hats. Oh, we got to know. We got to know.
And I'm going to tell you, that's fake news. I have 1,300 and over 1,300. So
what? What? On your hat. Oh, you heard it here. 1,300.
Right, they have their own room right next door to where I am right now in my office, and so I'm just waiting for pandemic to pass on, and for us to get out of this tunnel. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel, but I don't want people to be fooled and not remember that we are still in the tunnel, and so we still have to be careful moving through this process. But yeah, I have 1,300. I started wearing hats when I was a little girl. I only had a few, wore them to church, kept them in a box in the top of the closet. And you didn't go to church.
That's right.
Without a hat on. And you didn't go to church without. So Saturday evening, you polished your shoes up and got your little crinoline slips and all these other things out. Those of you who are back in the day, you probably know what I'm talking about.
Right. Get your hair pressed, all of that.
Pressed, hold that ear. And
right.
So,
and that back of that neck, you better not move.
Oh my gosh. I used to hate that. It felt like it was running down my back. But so I wore hats. Now, as I got older, I had allergies really bad. And I even took shots for a couple of years because I was allergic to everything, and I was sneezing all the time. But I remember growing up, my grandmother used to tell me, okay, don't go out this house, cover that noggin, she would say. And so I've been covering my noggin, and basically I don't get sick a lot, in terms of colds and that kind of thing, because my grandmother would tell me, if you cover that noggin, it'll keep the heat inside and you'll stay healthy. So I have been doing that, and I started. So that's really it was really a medical thing for me. It was allergies all the time, and so I covered my head, and actually I was, feeling a lot better in terms of my health. And then, it sort of became, so I ended up getting so many that I started kind of coordinating them. But I don't buy a hat for a particular event or outfit. I
You
just have,
got 1,300 of
well,
them.
I know it. And so people ask me, well, gosh, that goes so great with that jacket. So did you buy them? I said, I've had the hat for at least 10 years. And, so I've been wearing them for about uh, 45, 50 years. I've been wearing a hat every day.
Hmm.
I don't wear it to hide anything. People say, "We had a bad hair day." I don't, that's not. I don't see hats that way. I don't use it to hide anything. I use it to sort of accent. And so now it's become a statement, not just a fashion statement, but it's a statement about who I am. What's interesting, I cannot wear my hats on the U.S. House floor. I wore my hat for 20 and a half years on the State House floor. That's an old, antiquated rule because I don't think women were expected to serve in Congress. It's been recent that they've had female bathrooms. They've been all male bathrooms.
What?
Yeah. There's a whole lot of stories that you probably don't know
Wow.
about. They didn't expect, think about it.
Hmm.
Still don't have. I became the 100th woman. I mean, come on now. We've got many more now, but I'm saying I think that's probably what it was. It's an antiquated rule. And when I first ran, and a lot of the reporters were calling me, they said, "So what are you gonna do about your hats? You're not gonna be able to wear your hat." So I take it off going on the floor. A time or two I've forgotten, right? And the
Hmm.
sergeant of arms runs over there, but I have it in my hand when I go out the door. I put it back on. Now
Hmm.
the reporter asked me, so, what are you going to do? You're going to change the rule? I said, listen, I think it's an old antiquated. I think it's very discriminatory. But now, you have women of different faiths, of course, and they have the head cover. I don't wear a hat because I'm a Baptist, but I do wear it to church. But the point is, I said to him, no, I'm not going to make a ruckus about that because it's not what's on my head, it's what's in my head. And so I'm going to Congress to try to get some things done. And I don't want people to divert what I'm really there to do by, talking about what I'm wearing.
Hmm.
The only thing I try to do is to abide by the regulations and the rules of how we are supposed to be dressed men have to have jackets, you have to have your tie on and that kind of thing. And ladies, they don't want you to have we've got some rules there, but that's not the focus. So I'm fine with going in and out, taking it off, putting it back on. But I still think it's a very discriminatory thing, and I don't think that should be. Now I would never wear. I've got a hat that's probably right now. I looked at it today. It's probably 4 feet across. I mean,
Oh my gosh.
it's
Oh, you got to wear that for the next show.
it's
That sounds
it's
incredible.
absolutely gorgeous, and I haven't worn it. I did buy it last year when I did my Adams Mad Hatters, and hopefully I'll be able to do that again in person. We don't know, the COVID's gonna help me determine that, but I enjoy my hats. They do make a statement. When I was in the state house and I got the bill passed, the minimum wage bill passed, and the governor signed the bill. Governor Easley was the governor at the time. So I went up to the governor's mansion when he was signing the bill, and they have a program and they sign. And if it's your bill, they'll give you a pen and so forth. And so when he made the comments about the bill, I was wearing a hat that did not have a crown, did not have a top on it, right?
Hmm.
And he made a comment about it. And he says, Alma Adams worked so hard on this bill, she blew the lid off of her hat. So I call that my minimum wage hat, and I still have that. And that was back in 2006, right? So that's how long that one has been with me. But yeah, it's been an interesting journey for me to go from school board to Congress, to be able to serve uh, at the local level, at the state level, to be able to teach and learn from my students. And I've always said that everything that you need to know and that students need to know, you don't learn in a book. And you
Right.
don't learn everything inside a classroom. And so, as an artist, and we'll have to get together and talk about my art another time. But as an artist, and I am a practicing artist. I work professionally when I have the time. But
Mhm.
I believe that my students, I would take them to galleries. I would take them to artist studios to talk to those individuals who actually made the art. Because I think that's the one of the best ways. You can see that image in a book, but it's
Mhm.
got greater meaning for you. When I first saw Guernica by Pablo Picasso, and it's huge. You never get the magnitude of the size of it even by looking at it in a book. So I just believe that OJT, I like to call it, on the job training, and you have
Mhm.
to really, or we'll say on the job teaching, to take students outside of the classroom so they can learn. And so I did that in teaching art. I did that when I taught my women in politics class. We visited politicians. We had them to come to us. We went to the school board meeting, the county commission meeting, and so forth to really learn the process of governance and how they needed to be involved. So, I've had a very diverse a diverse life in terms of my not only the work that I've been able to do, but the community involvement and engagement that I have been in. So and I've enjoyed my new community of Mecklenburg County.
Mhm.
A lot of traffic here, but a lot of traffic in DC too.
Right.
But
Right.
people have been warm and welcoming, and I've tried to really be a stakeholder representative.
Mhm.
And we haven't done everything right, but we certainly made an effort to really bring some credibility to this office, and to make sure that we're able to meet the needs of the citizens of this district, all 800 plus thousand of them. Yeah.
So, what would you say your biggest lesson has been as a congresswoman? What's the biggest lesson you've learned?
Well, the biggest lesson I've learned is, sometimes you have to suck it up and
Mhm.
and learn to compromise. And that is something that I've learned in every elected office. If you start out with a piece of legislation, you have to be flexible in your thinking. First of all, to welcome other ideas, uh,
Mhm.
because along the way, and even with the Futures Act, and I have to give credit to Representative Lamar Alexander, Republican, who actually helped to make the bill better in some regards, because he really wanted to add the FAFSA piece. And those of you
Mhm.
who applied for school, FAFSA, that form with all of those questions on it. We cut that thing down. We
Mhm.
took about 20 some questions off of it. And really, people had been asking for that, and we needed to do that. And that makes it the whole process a lot better. But you have to be receptive. You cannot be so hard nosed that you say, "Well, I'm not changing this." You all will have to do. So you've got to learn to compromise, to give and take. That's been a good lesson for me. And you have to be persistent. So if you file a piece of legislation, if you do that, and if it doesn't get through, we're in the 117th Congress. The things that I filed in the 116th Congress, if they didn't get through and to the president's desk, thank God that the Futures Act did get there. President Trump signed it. He had to, it got there. So he was trying
Right.
to take credit for it. He didn't have anything to do with the bill. As a matter of fact, he took money. He didn't put any money in the budget, in his budget. He actually took it out. So, but he's gone, and so
Wow.
bygones be bygones. We got the bill passed. But I think that that's important, that we remember that ideas must be shared, And it's give and take. Okay, that's a good idea. We're gonna add that. So what you start out with is not always completely what you end up with. And so, again, you have to be willing to compromise. I've compromised someone on Ignite, and we'll see what happens along the way. But we've got a little ways to travel, and I would say to all of the folks, whatever areas that you're interested in, I think you need to reach out to the members who are voting and making decisions. Because I always say, you don't change policy until you change policymakers. And let me clear that up. Change their minds. You work with them to say, well, hey, let's look at this again. Or if you can't change their minds, you know what you do. You go to the polls, and you might have to get some new people. But that's what it's about. Again, give and take. I think you give everybody an opportunity, to do what they said they were going to do, and if they don't do it, because somebody's going to make a decision for and about you, most times without you.
Absolutely.
And, yeah.
So there's just too many questions, Congresswoman Adams, but I do want to ask you this. Mm-hmm. January the 6th, where were you? And what was that like? Because people just, we were looking at it from the outside in, but what was it like for you?
Well, you were looking at it from the outside in, and to some degree, you probably saw more than we did. Mm-hmm. Those of us, now, my office is in Raven, and what we were there for on the 6th, to certify the votes. That has to happen before a president can take the oath. So the president was sworn in on the 20th. This happened on the 6th. So you're talking about 15 or 14 days. And so we had to be there to go through the roll call by state. If there was an objection, then we had individuals speaking if they had an objection, and then we took the vote, state by state. Now, I was, because we have COVID, and because we are certainly trying to be safe about it, we are not all allowed on the floor at the same time now. So we vote in groups, as a matter of fact. But on this particular day, the speaker said to us, we can always watch everything from the TVs in our office. But she said, if you really want to be on the floor, for example, if your state was being challenged, and my state wasn't in terms of the vote, but so that she would allow a time for us to go to the floor, but you'd have to go up into the gallery unless you were speaking. And so I told my staff, well, I'd kind of like to, in terms of the history of it all, to go. And so my time was, I think, 1:15 or something like that. And so I had my staff, and I have only 3 people with me since it's COVID. My chief of staff, my legislative director, and one of my LAs who also helps me drive. And so we left my office about 5 minutes of 11, and then we 5 minutes of 1. I'm sorry, and went over, and I saw the crowds, but they were pretty far back, on the grassy part. And so when I saw them, I didn't, I knew that there was going to be some protesting. So we circled around to get out, and the officer came over and said, well, we've just had to lock this door, so you need to go to the other door. And I said, okay. So we did that. It was about maybe 30 or 40 feet. So we get there, and the officer came over. I thought he was opening my door. He was keeping my door shut. He says, no. He said, we've now had to shut this door down because these protesters have gotten into the Capitol, and they're climbing the wall. So I'm looking back, and I see all these people. They had just kind of, it was like somebody was waiting to say, on your mark, get set, go. And they just kind of lunged at the building. So the officer told me, Now, if you need to get up there, I said, well, I'm supposed to be up there at 1:30. Now, I didn't know what was going on the inside. A lot of people were already in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to see on my phone the chamber, and I saw Pence and Pelosi, and the Secret Service came in and grabbed them, took them out. Well, I still didn't think a whole lot at the time because things kind of got fuzzy. So the officer told me that, well, you can go in the tunnel and access that way. So I told my the young man, I said, well, let's go back to the office, and if I feel like it, by the time we get over there, we'll just walk through the tunnel. So as we were crossing off of the grounds, I said, I'm not feeling this, Gordon. I said, I just, I'm gonna let somebody take my 15 minutes because that's all I was going to be allowed. I said, I'm just not, it's not feeling good to me. So I said, we'll go back to the office and we'll watch from there. And so we went to the office. By that time, my phone was, everybody was texting me because you all could see what we couldn't see in there.
Mm-hmm.
Then when I got in the office, my TV was still on, and I saw all of this stuff going. It was just so unreal, and I got very, very nervous because I had these three young people with me, and I felt very responsible for them. And so they were, and I really kind of got emotional, was trying not to show it, and so they were asking me, "Are you all right, Carlos?" I said, "Oh yeah, I'm good." I said, "Look, we're gonna lock all the doors." So by then, all of these things were coming on our computer, shelter in place, and so forth. So I said, okay, we're gonna lock up all these doors, turn off the light. I don't want anybody talking in here. So we did that, and then pretty soon by then, like I said, I got texts all over the place. Are you okay? And I'm saying, well, yeah, for now. But by the time that happened, then the security came and they took me out to another area where we were. But it was a very unsettling, emotional time. And I'm not a really emotional person in that way. But my staff said, well, we're going to put chairs up to the door. They were just trying to show me that they were okay. But, you think about that. And I've seen the officer since then who stopped me. And I asked him one day, I said, you remember when I came through here? He said, yes, ma'am, I do. I said, you told me that I could go into the tunnel. Were you really aware of what was going on inside? He said, well, he wasn't at the time. So see, all the people on the outside didn't know that they were just invading everything in there. And it was a horrible attack on our democracy. But what we did, and so when I talked to my daughter, and so we were still in this secure place, at least we thought it was, but I understand they knew where we were. But anyway, so we were in this room, and everybody was there, and we had some of our colleagues who wouldn't put masks on. I mean, it was really not a good experience there. But we decided, Speaker Pelosi came in, and we said we're going to go back to the chamber and finish our work. So my daughter calls me, and I said, in another 30 minutes, we're going back in the chamber. She said, you're going back in the chamber?
Right.
I said, well, we got to finish our work. And I think that was really the crux of it, that we were there to, that we wouldn't let all of this insurrection and all of these awful folks who came in and did these terrible things, that we weren't going to let them win. And so we went in and we finished and took the vote. And it was probably 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning when we finished, when I got back to my apartment. But I was a little nervous going back in, but they, took care of all the, getting, and the windows were broken and somebody was shot, trying to get in the windows. There was still the stains. It was just a very emotional and upsetting time. And I still think about it because, you think about what happened, the fact that we had a police officer to be killed. He died shortly after that, but then so many of them were hurt. They weren't prepared. I think that it appeared that there was some inside work there. I mean, I'm pretty sure of that. And so all that's being investigated now. But I just think that it was probably one of the worst experiences, on the job experiences that I have ever had particularly as an elected leader, because you don't expect that. And then even since then, someone rammed the gate and jumped out and killed one of our officers. We had two officers to commit suicide. So that right there tells you how emotionally distraught people were about it, to just get beat up and sprayed, and it was planned. I mean, some of them had these big ladders, and then they had this galley out there with a noose on it. Hang Mike.
It's incredible. Like, y'all didn't see them building this.
Well, here's what we know. While there was a rally that started at the White House with the president down there, a lot of these people had been communicating, email, texting, all the social media stuff, and so they came in. Sometimes some of them maybe days before, got set up, hid the things, or had them stored somewhere, because nobody had those kinds of things at the rally.
Right.
They had pictures of it. Nobody had that. Then all of a sudden, you show up with they had backpacks and gear and all kinds of stuff for what do you call it, rock climbing. So they clearly were prepared to really be destructive, and it was just a horrible experience. And I don't think, and there's still people trying to recover emotionally from it, especially our officers. They just took they took a tremendous beating, not just physically, but emotionally. Yeah, and a lot of my colleagues did. Those who were up, and I think about it, I was supposed to be up there. But I don't. You can call it intuition, or you can call it the Lord saying you don't need to go up there right now.
That's grace.
So I didn't. That's right. And so, and I think about if I had, because based on how they described having to get out, having to crawl, and my knees aren't as good as they used to be, and it's just frightening putting on the gas masks, because they're under every desk. For emergencies like that. So, yeah, it was so many of us have sort of written about the experiences. People are still talking about it, and it's been pretty trying on a lot of people. Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest lessons is that we can't let this be whitewashed.
Right.
Telling your story. I mean, imagine all of this happening, and then you still have to walk through those same halls there's been people have defecated and urinated and blood and broken glass, and you still persisted and had a job to do. And we can't allow that day to be whitewashed as just some day. We can't. So for those of you tuning in, we can't get all your questions. We're going to have a part 2. We definitely have to have a part 2. Really, one last question. Actually, 2, because I see this popping up quite a bit. What would you tell any young woman who's aspiring to get into politics? What advice would you give her?
Do it. Get engaged. Get involved with your community. I think you need to do that first, because you're gonna get one vote. You're gonna get yours, but it's gonna take more than your vote to get you elected. But I would say get involved and get engaged in the community. So first of all, you understand the responsibilities of the office that you want to run for. We have people who file for office, for whether it's city council or county, and they don't even know what the folks do. They've never been to a county commission meeting, never been to. So, you want to do that, because when it's your time, it'll be your time. And it's not just your time to say, just because you wake up one morning and say, oh, gee, I want to run, I want to be a member of council. And then you have not been engaged and involved in the community, or you don't know. So I would say you need to do that first. Then get involved with, get a mentor, get someone who's doing it, so that you can work with and learn from, and who can mentor you, because I think that is so very important to do that. But I say, if you can't win if you don't run. You may not win if you do run, but at least you need that experience. But work on somebody's campaign. that you believe in, whose ideas and principles are similar to yours. And understand, people say, well, I don't like either party, so I'm not going to vote. Well, this is the reality is it's a two-party system here. And I tell the students who say, well, I'm going to be an independent. Well, that it serves some advantages, but they're not making any laws anywhere. Until we get our system changed, you've got to work within the system. But I would say that service is as I say, it's the rent you pay for living on this earth, but it is also a wonderful thing to have the opportunity to serve and to work to make your community better. But I think if you do those things, but don't just say, "Oh, I don't think I'm ever going to do it," or if you say that, you probably never will do it. But
that's right.
I say if it's in your heart, if it's in your mind, then you get with some people who can give you some good advice and proceed. And it's always you people they'll ask me, well, why did you run for school board? And my daughter likes to answer that for me, and she says, Mom, you ran because of me. They were closing my school and all of the black school, and I said, well, you're absolutely right. So typically there is a cause, or there is something that calls you to want to serve and to make things better.
And that's so important.
Yeah, that is, as the President Biden says, we're going to build back better. We've got to do that for our communities. We've got to do that for our schools. And so I can't think of, for me, I have been able to serve in numerous ways as a teacher and as an elected a member of this whole electoral process. So I'd always like to say, from school board to Congress, it's been a long journey for me, but it's one that I have enjoyed taking. You got to have some tough skin. I can tell you, the newspaper used to write about me before television and before people could actually see what was going on. We had the newspaper to rely on, the news, and they would when they wrote about me, they said Alma Adams, a militant black professor, college.
Absolutely.
Right. Now, when they write about white folks, if they're talking about their children and so forth, they're concerned. I was a concerned and still am. I was an angry parent, and today I'm an angry grandparent because we still haven't done what we need to do for our children. And we've got to hold elected leaders responsible and accountable. And when they're not, you change them out. Just like the shoe hurts, this shoe's gotten too small, my foot's big. Get you another one.
And we've got to be involved in the political process. The days of just, okay, it doesn't matter. If anything, this last election cycle has taught us is how powerful our vote is, and they wouldn't be working so hard to take it away if it wasn't that powerful. So, so definitely, we absolutely need you all to be more involved in the political process. So many questions. So thank you all for tuning in and chiming in. Congresswoman Adams has a very busy day tomorrow. So we have definitely got to plan around 2 for sure. So thank you so much. Wait a minute. I'm about to let you get away without the so question. Usually there's like random questions I ask in the so thing. So it's like, so you can't think about it, but I'm going to give you an easy one.
Okay.
If you could wake up anywhere tomorrow, unlimited income, anywhere in the world, where would you wake up?
Unlimited income?
Unlimited income anywhere in the world. Where would you be?
Well, I think I'd like to go to Europe. Well, probably not a good time to go right now.
Right. Well, let me preface that: unlimited income and no COVID, no Rona, and all the money.
Okay. I've always wanted to go to, and I've been to Ireland. I've been to 14 countries, but I haven't been to Italy. And I really want to go there, in terms of my artistic background and so forth. And and all the things that I've learned over the years. But that's one place that I really would like to go, and just kind of wade on the water and that kind of thing. But yeah, that's
Oh, you would love it. Everywhere you walk around, just the buildings, just the
yeah,
street is just
yeah,
art.
yeah,
Everywhere is art.
yeah,
Everywhere is art.
yeah.
So thank you so much for your time. I know there was a lot of questions. So if you're not already following Congresswoman Adams, she's on Instagram and Twitter at Rep Adams. You can find her there. If you are not following her already, if they have questions, can they
Yeah,
tweet you
tell,
there?
tell them to do that, and we'll try to answer and put them out, put the answers out, and I want to just say that on the 16th of May, I'll be doing the commencement address for JCSU,
Yes,
and
yes,
so
yes.
I think they're going to stream it and so forth. So I hope to have a message for not only the students but for our community as well. And listen,
And
just
what time will that be?
11 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
So continue to keep me in your prayers. And listen, my office is always open. So if you have any congressional issues there that we can address, certainly I have a pretty good team of folks who we could probably get answers for you.
Absolutely. So definitely, if you're not following, definitely make sure you go ahead and do that. If you haven't already subscribed, just Google the Convo Pod Show. All the social media pops up. Next week's show is What is Rap Track, which is the Reimagining America Project, the
Wow.
Truth Reconciliation Atonement Commission of Charlotte, an organization that I and several others are involved in that evolved out of what was happening last summer. And ultimately, we'll talk about it in great detail, but Reverend Dr. Rodney Sadler, Mayor Jennifer Roberts, Aaron Mills, and Jency Baker will all be live next Wednesday at 8 o'clock talking about how Rap Track came into existence and how we are tackling racial issues and racial disparities using the commission concept that evolved out of South Africa, actually, at the end of apartheid. So we do it through a hearing process with impacted witnesses. It's a project for sure. We're dealing with a number of interesting topics, and we're talking about the racialization of the criminal justice system the next day on May the 13th. So definitely join us next week to learn more about that. Obviously, if you have not already done so, go to the Convo Pod Show for all show episodes. This episode, if you've caught it somewhere in the middle, the replay will be available in about 5 minutes after the show is done. I definitely encourage you to share it. Because this has been a fantastic conversation, just talking about your story, Congresswoman Adams, your legislative agenda, which we just scratched the surface, and just your historic election of being the 100th woman in Congress. I mean, it's incredible. So definitely go back and catch the replay. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks to all of you who have tuned in and chimed in. We'll definitely find a way to get a part two because y'all asked some incredible questions. We just don't have 4 hours to do it. So
Well,
we will.
I'll be happy to come back and see if we can answer some of those and maybe have another conversation. Thank you so much,
I
Yolanda.
would
You've been
love
great.
it. Have
Appreciate it.
a have a good night. Thank you. We will see you soon.